And that's it.
That's it. All right,
First ever,
thanks for coming.
first ever live show. And you're the first guest. Do you feel honoured?
Yeah.
That's so convincing.
It's funny because when you think, oh, is it an honor that I've been asked first, or is it like, oh, he'd probably do it?
Or is it because if it all goes wrong, I know you're pretty good with the software that you can like save the day and
or just delete the episode afterwards.
Yeah, because literally I don't see anyone going live. Although since we announced it on socials earlier and you shared it, I got 3 new subscribers. So
there you go. That's all you want. That's
done a
the
lot for
whole
the
point.
channel.
That's the
Along
whole
with
point.
the
3
mic as well.
subscribers. That's
So,
quadruple what you had this morning. Then, if you got 3 extra.
Yeah, we're flying at this rate, mate. We could be double digits by the end of the day.
Yeah.
So what we always do with our guests, we ask the last guest to leave a question for the next guest. And our last guest was Hornsey. I think you know him. You've been at a Battlefront round before. So his question for you, well, not for you, but in general, it just happens to be you that's answering it, was if you could go back in time to your 14-year-old self and give him one piece of advice, what would it be?
Use a towel instead of a sock? No.
Yeah, why do you think socks were subtle? Odd, that isn't
it? 14. So when I was 14, let's think. I was like starting a steady decline from, you know, the way when you're a child, you're an average. Your average child is like slim, active, mobile, like all the things. I was going to say supple, but that sounds weird. So I'd say when I was about 11, I started a kind of a slow decline, and then like 12, 13, 14, 15, up to like 20, up to about 22 was just like a steady decline towards obesity. So I'd say if I was 14, I'd like to say to my 14-year-old self, like, hey, cop on, sort your shit out, because you're going to regret this for the next 20 or so years. Yeah, I'd say start earlier, be more active. 14. What year was I 14 in?
No
20
idea
years
how
ago.
old you are.
So like 20 years ago, yeah, I probably would have said like, hey, go to CrossFit.com and see what you think, or book a flight. Well, no, you're 14, you're not going to book a flight to California, but have a look at Greg Glassman's stuff and see what you think. Because wouldn't it be so cool to have been in from the very beginning?
Yeah, I do think that sometimes, because when you see how it was back then, it's just quality. I do think, though, it sounds like you started your decline earlier than most. If you said that you started a steady decline from 11, I feel like
you see, I went to like a primary school. I lived out in the asshole of nowhere. I went to a primary school or an elementary school or whatever. That was very small. There was like one boy in my class and 4 girls.
It's not bad.
And yeah, still struck out. And there was no real sport, or like the school was in the middle of nowhere too, and there was no real sport outside of school sport, and our school sport was pretty shit because it was like 4 girls and 2 guys. It was just a very small group, so we had like 5-year-olds on our football team. Was it just to make up numbers? And then I was kind of fine until my brother went to boarding school when I was about 11, maybe 10 or 11. And then it was then that I was just I just had nothing to do. Do you know what I mean? There was no one to play with at home. Wasn't doing any sports at school. It was just kind of like there was nothing there. So I just like watch TV, or I just, you know, sit inside, because Ireland as well, so it's like rainy and shit. Like, so yeah, that was the start. That was the start of my decline. That it was like a nosedive for. No, it wasn't a nosedive. It was just a slow, steady decline into kind of early decrepitude, and like, yeah, just like consistently overweight, like gradually getting worse and worse, peaking at about 20. I don't know what age I was, like 22, and then slowly started pulling out of it, and I've just kind of ebbed and flowed a little bit since.
So at what point?
Oh,
then
that's fucking horrible.
You picked the wrong one.
Yeah.
What is it? That
Somehow
cola
it's worse than
flavored
the
one?
other one. It's, sour grape.
Oh,
nice.
well, even sounds like it's going to be shit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So, you know, from like you say, like you flip flopped and with your weight and with fitness and stuff like that. When did you actually like discover CrossFit then? Because you wish you'd have discovered it as your 14-year-old self. When did it strike you?
20. Let's see. I went back to college at 24. That took 4 years. 28. So 28 or 29.
So what year?
27 or 28, somewhere around there. So 2013, 14, 15, 16, like 2018, maybe 17, 18, somewhere around there. I don't know. I'm still at the stage, you know, where someone says, someone will say the name of a song, and I'll be like, "Oh, that was like 10 years ago." And it's like, nope, that was in 1993.
It's weird how time goes like that.
Yeah, I think I went back to college. I kind of went over to London when I dropped out of college, went over to London, worked in Irish bar and a Jamaican nightclub. And then came home to go back to college. And that was when I started thinking like, oh, I actually need to do something. Like I'm really overweight. Like I need to do something. So I did it the right way. Sarcasm, where I ate tuna and lettuce and ran as far as I could every day for like 2 months and I lost a good chunk of weight, but like I'd be fairly certain I got mercury poisoning from the tuna. And then went back to college. And then after college, myself and my now wife, then girlfriend, reluctant, moved home, and there was a gym opening in the town that I had grown up in. And we went to like a Globo gym, and they asked for a direct debit and all this kind of stuff. I was like, oh, I don't know how long we're going to be around for. I don't know if I want to commit to anything. So someone said, oh, there's this other gym opening, Wolfhound Fitness. And I was like, okay. So we went, and it was bare, like it was just being set up. And the guy said, oh, we actually opened today. We have a class tonight at 7 or at 6 or something. He's like, why don't you come in? And I was like, oh, I'm not doing fucking classes. Like, because I was just thinking of spin. So I was like, I'm not doing classes. I said, do you just do open gym? Can I just come in and do something? And he was like, I didn't even know the term open gym at that time. I was like, can you not just come in and do your own thing? And he said, yeah, I mean, maybe like at some point, but like you still have to do a class to start anyway to see what you're like, whatever. And I was like, all right, okay. So came in, really enjoyed it. And then basically that was like functional fitness. And then over the next, I don't know, that was in maybe, I don't even know when, August. Between August and February, we slowly started doing CrossFit without realizing we were doing CrossFit. And then we were told about like, hey, there's this thing called the Open. And we're not an affiliate, so we have to video all our videos, like, or all our workouts. So only do it if you really want to do it, because we're not setting up cameras for everyone in here. So my wife was really good. She did it. Joe, the owner, did it. And I think his brother and another guy did it. And yeah, we all did the workouts, but they put in their scores because they had the videos. And then soon after that, it affiliated, and it went from like hearing terms like, you know, oh, you're going to do as many as you can. And then that was being replaced by AMRAP. And then like, so every minute you're going to do something. And then that was replaced by EMOM. And then slowly just the kind of vernacular went in. And then it was like, oh, have you seen this thing on Netflix? And oh, have you seen this thing on YouTube? And then it's just, I remember seeing like Brent Fikowski, Alec Smith, Josh Bridges, and Chandler Smith, and just being like, this sport is fucking nuts. Like when you just see like all the height difference, the skin difference, the appearance difference, the skill difference, and just being like, this is bizarre that these 4 guys are all really good at the same sport. And then it was just like, just hooked, just loved it.
Yeah, we were talking, I think it was Friday, wasn't it, on text, just about the fact that when you do the Open and you see the scores that other people get and then do the workout yourself, it's unbelievable, because you go as fast as humanly possible for you, and then you're like 150 reps behind another human being. It's just crazy.
Or then you watch back something that you did and you're like, wow, that's not how it felt.
Yeah.
It's like my head, the dumbbell was a blur as I was jumping across it. I was moving so quickly, and then you watch it back, and you're like lying on the ground for 4 seconds.
How did you find it? You assume
I
you've
did
done
it. I did it today. I did it. I'm going to do it again tomorrow. I'm really pissed off at how I did, to be honest. I kind of like I did it, and those kind of workouts where it's like really low skill, they're ones that I do, and then immediately afterwards think, I should have actually strategically thought about what I was doing there instead of just like I walked. It's like a Globo gym that I went to because there isn't enough. You know what? Maybe there is enough space here. I don't know. I'll measure it tomorrow.
Think, is it?
But I went there. They had the big, the like 15 centimeter in diameter round dumbbells that are like really short, but the ends are really high. So I remember grabbing one of them and I was like, oh my God, this is like a fucking box jump getting over this. Yeah. And then I went, they had like an Astro with lines on it. And every line was a meter. And I was like, oh, so it's just 4 lines basically. Is it like 1.2 meters or something? So I was like, okay, so it's about 4 lines. And then I did a lunge and my knee touched the ground, and it's literally like the thinnest Astro on just like concrete. So I like hit my knee off and I was like, fuck, that was really sore. Like, I was like, okay, I'm glad I did like a few warm-up reps. But yeah, I did. I didn't do good. I finished my, where was I? I finished my set of 21 burpees, I think, and I did like 7 dumbbell clean and jerks. But I was kind of fine until, as I'm sure everybody is, I was fine until like the round of 18 burpees. And then I slowed down, but I slowed down. I know I slowed down like way too much. And I, like finished my burpees and kind of stood around for a few seconds. I should have just picked up the dumbbell. And like, as you start doing the reps, you're like, I probably should have just picked it up straight away. I was actually more okay because it's not like it's another burpee you're doing. It's something totally different. And I'm kind of lucky in that for someone of my skill level, which is quite low, the dumbbell never really feels that bad especially for like snatches or clean and jerks and stuff. Like it'd be different if it was thrusters or whatever. So I should have just like grown a pair of balls and started moving faster. But yeah, I'll do it again tomorrow, and I hope to finish the round of 24 tomorrow.
I found it was the dumbbell that absolutely filled me in. Like I do quite a lot of burpees and I don't mind them, but the dumbbell, like it just, I finished the 24s and I got 1 burpee in the 27, but I did 18 of the 24 dumbbell clean and jerks on one arm because I was just like, my left arm is just pathetic. It's like so lame.
Yeah, I didn't put the dumbbell down until I think I had 12 of the 18 done. That was the first time I broke the dumbbell. So I'd say in hindsight as well, I'd probably, I don't know though, the dumbbell didn't really hold me back. Maybe I shouldn't have put it down that time. Maybe that's what cost me. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to know really. I know rep myself as well, which I was pretty proud of. But I was lunging back.
What did you do?
I was lunging back, and my knee didn't touch the ground. And I would, when you're moving, you think, oh, it's going to tip now. And then I stood up and I was like, wait, it didn't tip. And then I went back, and then I was like, oh, fuck, I have to go back to the start of the, you have to go back to the whatever end you just finished on. So that took up a bit of time too. But it's just like, it's kind of, I'm at that stage where it's like you can't lament the work that you haven't done either. Like I haven't been prioritizing fitness as much as I should. I'm doing a half marathon in a couple of weeks, and like that just doesn't transfer over like at all, fitness wise. And then so much the training for that, I'm not doing a heap of training for it, but the training that I'm doing for it is quite time consuming, where it's like upwards of up to 2 hours basically. And we have 3 kids, so it's kind of like there's a payoff there of, all right, I'll do that Tuesday, and then Wednesday, like one of the kids has swimming, I won't get in then. And like it's just really easy to find. I'm at that stage now, I think, where it's just really easy for me to find excuses. I should get up at whatever 5 o'clock in the morning, just do it in the morning so it's out of the way for the day. But then kind of just hard to get up in the morning when your kids are waking up during the night and stuff. So it's easier to say, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. So my current open scores will reflect that like I just haven't been as consistent as I need to be, basically.
Yeah. See, I'm the opposite of you because I don't have any responsibilities whatsoever. So I do exactly that. Well, I've obviously work and this. So like I get up and do all my training first thing. So then I'm like, whatever happens in the day, it don't matter. I've got it done, but I don't, like I said, I don't have the same challenges. I speak to my business partner a lot about it because she's got a little one as well. And she has them similar challenges what you're describing. But yeah, I'm one of the lucky ones. Well, depends what you mean by lucky, doesn't it? I spend 95% of my life on my own. If that's lucky.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's just like it ebbs and flows a lot, like motivation ebbs and flows. I think I've never been that disciplined. So then when the motivation isn't there, I'm not someone who can rely on discipline currently, which is something that I want to get better at, because I think it's just very easy to find excuses. And I think you'll always find excuses and you'll always find a reason not to do something or to, to roll over in the bed rather than getting up or whatever. So yeah, it's something that I'm endeavoring, as we speak, to rectify.
Do you think you've always had a bit of that then? Has discipline always been a bit of an issue for you, like all your life? Or?
Yeah, well, certainly since I was 11.
Well, yeah, by the sounds of it.
Yeah, just like I'd definitely be historically anyway, I definitely would have been like a oh fuck it type person. Where you hear those stories of people who are like, oh, the guy ate one biscuit and then just like fucked, like just went in a bender for a week or whatever. Like I was definitely that person where I only ever drank to get shit faced. I only ever went out to drink. Like it was always, it's baby out with the bathwater. That was my whole thing. And I've definitely improved since then. Like I haven't drank in like what year are we now? 2025, like 6 years.
Was that because of that then? Because you either got shit faced or you didn't, so you just thought, or was there any other story?
It was kind of convenient. So I would have drank, like I didn't drink a lot, but if I drank, I fucking drank, like. And I remember I was at that gym owner's, the two owners of the gym that I was going to were getting married, and I was at their wedding. And the next morning, I woke up and I was like, wow, from pretty much just before the meal, just like there's nothing, like there's no memory of it. And like my wife was like, she was like, you were fucking shit faced, but she was like, you were fine, like you didn't do anything bad, you didn't, you weren't aggressive or you didn't embarrass yourself or me really more than usual or anything. But then I went back for the day 2 and the gym owner Joe was like, wow, I'm actually impressed that you like rallied, that you came. And he was like, just before he said we were doing our first dance, and I looked over my wife's shoulder and saw you just neck a full bottle of white wine.
Fucking hell.
And then he was like, you're just downhill after that. And I was like, wow, I don't even remember doing that. And I just thought, like, what's the point? Like, what's the point? I'm just never drinking again. And then my wife was pregnant with our first child. So then when she was born, it was like, there's no way I'm doing this hungover. So I'm definitely never drinking again. And then, I don't know. I kind of think, I genuinely believe that if everybody stopped drinking, within about 6 months, they'd be like, God, I never actually really liked drinking. Like, I don't think anybody drinks alcohol and thinks, delicious. Like, it's just like, it's a means to an end. Certainly if you're Irish, it's just a means to an end. And then I think, like the other stuff that you lose, like the hangover and the fogginess and all that, you're kind of like, wow, there's actually a lot of drawbacks. Like, it's great socially and it's great for confidence, but I mean, you can just take drugs, I suppose. Or do CrossFit.
Yeah, I did this. I won't say I'm not sober, but like I made a decision to just quit because I was like exactly what you said. I like to binge. I never drunk just for the social element of it. I drunk to get drunk, and like overnight, I decided I wasn't going to do that anymore. But I was a bit more of a dickhead when I was drunk. It sounds like you were just drunk. I was like a bit of a twat. Like I'd say shit to people, and probably meant it. I just shouldn't have said it. Like
it amplifies your personality, doesn't it? Know what to say?
Apparently so.
Yeah, I think I do miss it in ways, like, because it's a nice, like, social lubricant, and it's nice. Like, it makes funny people funnier, and it makes,
To a
confident
point.
people. Yeah. Like, I always found myself hilarious when I was drunk.
Well, drunk
Um,
Pedro is a good skirt. That is
yeah,
amusing.
that's true. But yeah, I think it just gets rid of inhibitions. Like, if I'm around the guys, I'll say things that I won't say in front of other people, or, like on a microphone or whatever. And, like, it leads to pretty hilarious interactions and stuff, because I
Yeah.
feel completely comfortable. And then you will feel that way when you're pissed, because you don't realize that you shouldn't feel completely comfortable
Yeah.
like where you are.
Yeah. So do you? I found it strange. Do you like people always think there's something wrong when you with you? Because when I stopped drinking as much, it was like, oh, why are you not drinking? Like I saw it on a podcast. Someone said alcohol is the only drug you can stop doing, and people think you've got a problem.
Yeah. You're
It's
not on
like
heroin
bizarre.
anymore? What's wrong?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, not so much. I think it's very common now that people don't drink. It's much more common than it was. I think a lot of times people will say, "Oh, how long have you been sober for?" And I'm like, I don't want to correct them, but I'm like, I don't really view it that way. Like, because to me, being sober, maybe this is my own ignorance, but if someone says, "Oh, I'm sober," I instantly think, like, "Oop, that guy was obviously an alcoholic."
Yeah.
That guy
Yeah.
had a drinking problem. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's unfair to, like, maybe that's not always the case, but, who's to say, like, I might do a hiller on it and just fuck up the whole record for absolutely no reason other than my own entertainment, and just neck a bottle of whiskey someday when I'm, like, almost 10 years sober or something. Um, like, yeah, I think the longer I'm away from it, the more I'm like, God, I actually didn't really enjoy that much. Um, And it's handy for the drunk Pedro stuff as well, because I've had the same bottle of whiskey for so long, and it's just like the only thing I use it for now is that sketch.
Just pouring a little bit out. And
Yeah.
when you did that at Wadapalooza with some of the athletes, I assume they knew beforehand because they were really good actors if they didn't.
Yeah. So James Sprague, I asked James and Austin, I said, "Have you seen my drunk videos?" And then they both said, "Yeah." Austin said, "Yeah, they're hilarious." But they both said, "Yeah." And I was like, "Okay, do you want to do one?" And they said, "Well, how would it work?" And I said to James, "I'm basically just not going to call you the fittest on earth. I'm going to call you everything else apart from that." And he was like, "Okay, perfect." And then we just, like, winged it after that. And then with Austin, what the hell was Austin's one about? Oh, rabbits. I said, "Oh, we'll
Yeah,
just talk." I said, "I'll just do a normal interview, but I'm just going to keep talking to you about rabbits." And he was like, "Cool." And he just went with it. Yeah, I don't think I didn't ask anybody who's like, "No, I'm not doing that." Um, but yeah, no, they're fun. They're fun to do. It's the same. I find the same, any of that kind of content. I was in an affiliate on Friday. I did, like, the behind the scenes at Wadapalooza, those kind of drunk videos and stuff. Once you start and talk to someone, it's fine. But there's up until the point where you go up to someone and talk to them, I hate being there. Like, because I'm just constantly thinking, all right, you need to do something, you need to go, you need to talk to someone, you need to ask
yeah,
someone a question, you need to do whatever. But you're just like, oh, I just don't know where to start or who to start with. And there's just this kind of awkward. And then, like, I'm trying to think, where was I before? I was at a competition before Crash. Fucking SoCal. I don't think I talked to anyone for the first day because I just didn't know where to start. And then once I started on the second day, I was like, oh, I've got loads of stuff, but I've missed a
yeah,
whole day of content because I just was like, I don't know, sat on my hands for too long.
yeah. Do you know when you started doing the podcast? How did that come about then? And then how did it move
Um,
forward to where it is today?
so Tim Paulson came to Filthy 150, which is a sanctioned event at the time, and lots of kind of big athletes came. Justin Medeiros won it that year.
Yeah, I remember
Um,
that.
and he came to our gym and did a workshop. And I did the workshop with him, and I was really, like, deeply embedded in that affiliate at the time. And we all, like, me, my wife, a couple of other members, the owners, and Tim all went out for dinner. And Tim was sitting directly across me at the table, and he had gotten cut from the games that year in the first event because he just shit the bed on the rope climbs. It was, remember, it was that 2019 with the rope climbs and snatches and whatever.
I was at that. I went to that one in Madison.
Oh, cool. And I asked, I was there too, wasn't I? Yeah, I was there that year too. And I asked him, I just asked him a couple of questions about that, like about what it felt like and, you know, how he dealt with it. And, you know, did he just go back and do a million rope climbs, or how do you avoid just doing that when you shit the bed, not to just be like, well, I would guess I'm just going to do rope climbs forever now. I just asked him a couple of things like that, and he answered and was like, you know, kind of chatting away. And then he just kind of was like, geez, nobody's ever asked me. He's like, I don't even think my wife asked me how I felt after, like what was going through my head at specific times, you know, that kind of way.
Yeah.
I'm sure she asked how he felt, but you know what I mean. And he said that they were really good questions. And then at the time, I was obsessed with shit coffee and people saying that coffee was nice when it was shit, and it really pissed me off that people would say, you know, oh, come and have our artisan whatever, and then you get it and you're like, there's so many red flags. Like you ask for a flat white and they ask you what size you want. It's like red flag number 1. They like tamp the coffee in midair and you're like red flag number 2. There's so many little red flags. And I was talking to the gym owner and I was talking to him about that. He's big into coffee as well. And he was like, you should start, like, remember they used to do that Guinness of Ireland page, which would like rank pints of Guinness in different pubs. So it'd say like, oh, this pub 7 out of 10, this pub 2 out of 10, this pub 9 out of 10. You know, just rank them all. Just be a picture of a pint and then a number. And it wasn't about the pub. It was literally just about the liquid in the glass, and that was it. He's like, you should do that about coffees. You should do like a flat white ranking page. And then I said, we were on our way home from Filthy 150. And I was like, I'm going to do one better. I'm going to start a podcast and I'm going to call it Coffee Pods and Wods. And then that's kind of how it started. I was just like, there's just so much more scope than just taking a picture of a fucking cup of coffee. And then coffee was really heavy into it at the start. And then gradually I just kind of stopped kind of talking about coffee as much and just focused on athletes and coaches and like how they do what they do and stuff. Then there was lockdown and I got access to people that I shouldn't have had access to realistically, like Vellner and Frykowski and these kind of people and Noah. And then lockdown ended, but because I had those people on, other people were like, oh, well, he's had Vellner on, so he must be okay. Like not realizing that Vellner just had nothing to do at all. And then, it just kind of grew from there and kind of branched out a bit, started doing like vlogs and that kind of stuff because it's very hard to bring a podcast on the road. So I started doing kind of vlogs at events and stuff, and then tried to highlight affiliates a bit. And then I try to do as many different things as I can do across the year to keep it as varied as possible, so that like kind of like there's something for, like there isn't something for everyone because it's a very niche like market. But I try to vary it as much as I can, so it's not just like just interviews or just, you know, news or whatever.
I only the other day, you know, when I asked for your logo for this, it was the first time, I don't know why, that I realized it was Coffee Pods and Wods. I always put it with Coffee Pods, and I was like, it just struck me. I was like, oh. So,
I'd say you're in the large majority.
Yeah,
I'd say almost everybody thinks it's like Nespresso and Wods.
Yeah. Right, so
Nespresso
I was thinking
shit,
about,
by the way, if anyone's curious.
Mate, that's what I've got. Like, I never drank coffee until last year, and I've got an espresso machine now. So, but I just like all that mess from the ground beans and that. I just feel like that's a big commitment. Maybe I'm ready. I don't know.
It's kind of like waking up in the morning and punching yourself in the balls, and then being like,
I do that as well. Like,
am I ready to not punch myself in the balls anymore? Am I ready for that kind of commitment?
So I was thinking about like something that I don't know if it was Savon that said it about your like interviewing style and how it's like just so relaxed and gets people to open up in a specific way that they might not even necessarily know they're opening up in because of the way you just kind of let it flow a little bit. Now, do you reckon you like learned that, or do you think that's something that were there right from Tim Paulson? Because like when you said that about him and asking those questions, a lot of people don't like to ask questions that they might know the answer to, but it might be uncomfortable, so they don't ask them. So is that something that you've adopted, or do you think you've like always kind of had that?
I think I've always been like quite observant, and I've always been quite interested in I went through a phase of like reading like body language books, and like I kind of got into that kind of stuff. Like a bit like kind of couch psychologist type stuff. But I don't think it's I don't think it's deliberate. Well, sometimes it is, but in generally speaking, broadly speaking, I don't think it's deliberate. I think I will ask. I think one of the differences that I have is I'm really comfortable in awkward situations and in silence. So I'm more than happy to ask someone a question and then them to say something and then to just wait and just see, are they going to say something else? Or, whereas I think some people won't be comfortable in that silence and they'll butt in because they don't want anyone to feel awkward, like the listeners or the guest or whatever. So they'll say, and then what about whatever? And they'll change the topic or change the subject or move to a different branch of the same subject. Whereas I'm more than happy to just see what happens, because like, who knows? Like they might not say anything and then there's just 2 seconds of silence and then you continue, or they might say something ludicrous and then you're like, wow, I wasn't expecting them to fill the silence with that. I think the reason that, I remember someone asked me a while ago, they were like, how do you get away with it? Like, how do you get away with the questions that you ask people and whatever? And like, I don't think there's anything crazy, but I think it's because it's all coming from a place of genuine curiosity. Like, I don't think there's any gotchaism or there's any, oh, I'm going to nail this fucker now because I know this thing about them and I'm going to just pin them to the wall with it. Like, usually if something crazy comes out, it's through pure fluke or filling one of those silences or a follow-up question to something that was asked, or like just oh, you said that thing in the middle, what did you mean by that? Like if someone uses a weird adjective, or if someone says they felt a way that you're thinking that's a weird way to feel. I think really listening as well, when someone's talking and thinking, kind of keeping track of what they're saying, because it can be very easy in this type of setting to just say, oh, you said you gained weight when you were 11, like how did that happen? And then just let the other person speak, and then you're thinking, and I'm not saying that this is what you're doing, but you're thinking like, oh, I wonder, should I ask him about such and such a thing next, or maybe I'll wait to see. And then you've missed 2 sentences, and then one of those sentences could be like, and I tried to kill myself, or like I didn't, but it could, you know what I mean? You could miss something glaring in the middle. And I think as well, doing live shows changed the game as well, because I used to, what would you call it? Maybe pander to guests a bit, and I'd say, oh, we'll do the show, we'll just talk about whatever, and if you want to take anything out afterwards, you just tell me and I'll take it out before I release it. And then I just kind of said, like, I think it was because I was actually because I wanted to have Savan on, and he said, I'll do it if you do it live. And I was like, okay. And then I never did another pre-recorded show after that, because I was like, wow, the adrenaline is cool, and then the engagement in the comments is cool, and then the like sort of like a sense of jeopardy is cool, where like anything could go wrong, or something crazy could happen, or someone could type something nuts in the comments, or I've had one, I remember doing one at Madison after the games with O'Keefe, and he could see the comments, and he never, obviously when he usually does a show, he doesn't look at the comments, but he started arguing with the guy in the comments section, like in the live chat, and I was like, just stop fucking looking at it. Like, why are you getting so pent up? But yeah, I think it's just genuine curiosity, it's listening, and it's giving the other person the space to be awkward, like leaving a gap so that the person, because especially if the other person isn't that comfortable, obviously my job is to make them as comfortable as humanly possible, but if they're not a very, very confident person, if there is a couple of beats of a second of silence, they might just want to fill it out of like, oh shit, I better keep talking. And then that's when they might say something that you're like, hang on, what? Like, what did you just say there? About what do you mean? What have the athletes done for the affiliates? I need to hear more about this.
Like
that kind of stuff.
Crazy, wasn't it?
Yeah, nuts.
So, like, from a guest point of view, then, do you feel like there's like you can tell straight away if they're going to be like open up, or do you just kind of leave it to chance with that silence because someone that you might not necessarily have thought was going to come out with something does, or can you sort of get a feel for it early on?
You can kind of like a lot of guests now. It's kind of getting to the stage. I mean, there's definitely a lot of people I haven't had on the show, but it's sort of getting to the stage where it's kind of not easy to find someone that hasn't been on. So I'm familiar with people through my own show or through someone else's. So there is a sense of like, I don't do it deliberately. Like I wouldn't say if you came on the show, I wouldn't say, oh, I'm going to pause now and let him speak. It's just that I'm comfortable in that silence. So if you finish talking, I'm not going to jump down your throat with the next question. Like I'm going to wait and make sure that you are finished. Because there has been a few times in the past where I'll say something, the guest will say something, and then I'll say, and then what about whatever? And then I'm left with that regret of like, fuck, they looked like they were going to say something and I could have crossed them. Or they started talking and I didn't realize and I could have crossed them. And then that could have been something. It might be nothing, but it could have been something. But it's gone forever now because you can't go back. Sorry, what were you going to say 15 minutes ago before we changed topic?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it is just, I just give it enough space. And then some people have really weird speaking cadences as well. Like I'm trying to think, like for the last 5 minutes, I've been trying to think who it was, but I remember there was somebody who was on the show recently enough, and I kept thinking they were finished speaking, but then they'd continue to speak after they finished speaking. And I just remember with that person, there was a lot of silence because I was like, are they done or not done? Or will I speak or just stay and wait? But yeah, I think I think people know what they're getting as well. If they're coming on the show, they know that it's fair above all else, like that it's not going to be, they're not going to be made to look like an idiot. They can make themselves do it, but I'm not going to paint them into a corner or like make them say something bad or, try and catch them out in any kind of way.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you about that actually, because you like seem to get everybody on without, and you're very honest and open, but like obviously then you've got some shows like, I love Savon's podcast, but he's very polarizing and there's obviously people that are never going to go on his show, but you spend a lot of time on Savon, but then also get the guests that you wouldn't get in a million years because of things. How do you think how do you manage to like navigate that?
I don't know really. I think people probably it's interesting because like I don't think anybody would ever go on Savon's show apart from maybe Bryce Smith, but he sort of did it to himself. But I don't think anybody would go on his show and come out of it not looking good. Like I don't think he'd ever make someone look bad, and it's such a huge audience and such a loyal audience. And so many times I've seen people go on that show and the comment section be like, oh, fuck this guy. And then within 5 minutes, they're like, oh, I'd lie down on a train line for this guy. And, they're just like fully converted. But yeah, I think, I don't know. I think I honestly don't really know. I know I've had some people say that they won't come on my show. Like I've been blocked on Instagram, or I've had people say they won't come on my show, or I've had, people tell me that people won't come on my show because I associate with Savon and Hiller and whatever. And it's kind of like, okay, like, fine. I mean, it's their decision. Like, whatever they want to do is fine. But, I think I've over the 5 or nearly 6 years or whatever, I've built up enough of a reputation that most people know why I'm asking them on, or they know like the purpose of me asking them on is out of genuine curiosity or whatever. So they know like what they're getting. There are still some that say, oh no, he's friends with them, or he's in that group, or I don't want to associate with that group or whatever. Which is just so short-sighted. Like it's just like, cutting off your nose to spite your face kind of springs to mind. But each their own, like whatever. I don't know how I've kind of walked the line. To be honest, like I don't have an explanation for it. It's not a thing I consciously do. Like I don't think I'm I don't think I'm duplicitous or like two-faced, or I don't think I play both sides or anything like that. Like that, there's, that group has changed the way I operate and the way that I do things and the way that I think about things and the way that I think about myself and, how I live certain parts of my life and stuff. And, some of my best friends are in that group. So I don't think I've ever said anything that any of them have told me out of confidence, if you know what I mean. So it's not like there's definitely no like playing of both sides or anything. But I guess part of it is probably just the accent. Part of it is like distance. Like people think, he's miles away from them, like geographically. So he must be miles away from them, politically and, viewpoint and character and all the things that I think I don't like about the other people must be different about him. So yeah, it's just honestly just probably luck, I guess.
Yeah, it's something you said then about being like, like people that won't associate with someone because they associate with someone else. I've like always found that concept just bizarre since every girlfriend I've ever had have that thing, don't they? Oh, you were talking to her, I don't like her. It's just like, it's just crazy.
Like I do one of those like story things every so often, like once every couple of weeks. And every time someone says, how can you be friends with them when they voted for Trump? And
I've seen that today. Someone did it today, didn't they?
But it's like, it doesn't like literally has no impact on me. So like I'm in a completely different country. I mean, it will in some shape or form. There'll be some kind of economic decision in regards to Ireland that he makes, I'm sure, at some point. But like, they're happy. So what the fuck do I care? Do you know, like, I think people just have this thing of like every single person who voted for Trump is a racist. So anybody who's friends with anybody who voted for Trump is a racist. And I'm definitely not a racist. So they're all racists. So that's I've tarred them all with the one brush. It's just like, I don't know, it's insane. Like and it's the same thing that associating thing is the same thing. It's like, I don't share the same viewpoint as Savan on vaccinations or transgenderism. Ergo, I shouldn't associate with him, or I shouldn't appear on behind the scenes, or I shouldn't go on podcasts of people that he's friends with, because if he's friends with them, they probably also disagree with me on that. So I'll just never go. It's fucking nuts when you really start thinking about it. If someone just doesn't like someone, fine. If it's just like, I just don't like the guy, that's fine. But the mental gymnastics that people do to explain or to come up with a reason not to do something is crazy to me.
Do you think that's
as well? I remember hearing at Wadapalooza like 3 years ago. Savannah's finished. No one's going to go on his show anymore. No brands are going to deal with him. He's done. Like, this is it. It's over. And I heard that from like 2 agents and a major brand. Like, nah, he's out. It's finished. Him and Hiller, they're gone. Like, people hate them. It's over.
Yeah, bigger than
when
ever.
is that? Is it going to take 4 years? Like, when is that going to happen? It's just crazy.
Yeah, and I can't remember what I was going to say now, but like on that, like sort of everyone's sort of, the mental gymnastics you were talking about. I feel like people do that because when they've not come to a decision on their own, they just think it's the right decision for the herd. So then they have to perform those gymnastics because they have no idea why they've made that decision. And that brings us nicely onto one thing I did want to ask you about as well with CrossFit, because that we've talked about that as a societal problem, as a podcast problem, but obviously it's prominent within CrossFit right now that, it's just completely fractured. Everyone's gone one way or the other because of what happened. So, and I know you've had a few guests on that are maybe charged with fixing it long term, or maybe in the hot seat pretty soon, and you've got like a few guests coming up with the same. What do you think needs to happen for CrossFit to sort of reconcile those two groups, or do you think they can't and we have to just move forward and try and reach more people that are of sane mind?
Have you ever gone on Reddit?
No, I haven't. I've kind of flirted with the idea because I hear a lot about it, but I'm like, I don't think I can, because I don't go on X anymore because I found myself arguing with idiots, which then made me an idiot. So I just stopped going on because it's impossible to ignore the stupidity of people sometimes. So
if you go on Reddit, so I was on there yes, or today, and someone said there was something going on with Hiller and some guy, and someone put it in, and then someone said, "Who are they, or who are they?" And someone replied and said, "One of them is a former NFL football player, and he's I don't know, some kind of coach or something, and the other one makes YouTube videos." And it got downvoted. And someone replied and said, "How do you get downvoted when all you did was give facts?" Like, that's what Reddit is. If you say, like, pretty much, I'd say every fifth or sixth post on Reddit devolves into something about Savannah or Hiller pretty quickly, either overtly or like subliminally. Talk about like those podcast hosts, or like that kind of stuff, and it's all like negative, like, oh, they're a scourge on society, whatever. And then if anyone says, "I actually don't mind it," it's like immediately got like 31 downvotes, which is basically like a thumbs down. And it's, if anybody goes on the, "Well, actually, I kind of think it's okay. I'm able to, I can separate my disagreements on some things with my entertainment, or I can, I actually agree on some things." It's like, down, 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 like straight away. So will CrossFit ever fix? Like, absolutely not. Like, not a chance. They have absolutely no chance. If you can't type a not negative comment on Reddit without being downvoted, or if Barbell Spin can't put up a post without it just immediately devolving into "fuck you" in the comments, there's no way CrossFit can fix it. Same like Morning Chalk Up. Any of the news posts on Spin or Morning Chalk Up straight away are just like, "Hey, fuck you, no, fuck you." Those two dogs. "Hey, what's your name?" Like, that's just that meme in real life. So no, I don't think CrossFit can fix it. I think they can definitely do better. There's so much that they can do better. But it's funny, someone asked someone, I can't remember who it was recently, that like Savannah, Hiller, Spin, me, Taylor, like all of us guys are suddenly bootlickers for CrossFit and for Dave, when we were so critical of everything before August, and why have you suddenly changed your tune and all this kind of stuff. And it's basically like, we knew that they could do better, and we wanted to push them to do better. So the judging should be better because they can do better. The standards can be better because they could be better, so they need to do better. The decisions within the company could be better. They need to do better, so let's push them to do better. Let's be critical of them. Let's show what they can do. Now it's like, I honestly don't believe that they can currently do better. So now it's like, right, we need to actually just get into the boat and start rowing it ourselves, and start bailing it out ourselves, and start trying to like right the ship or steady the ship or whatever, because otherwise it's just all going to go down. So we were critical when it was right to be critical, but now it's like the whole fucking thing is on fire. So I've mixed analogies there, but the whole thing is a mess, and there's no leadership apart from like Dave. Basically, there's no leadership in there. Like, where the fuck is Don? Just like gone, like just vanished. So like, there's no leadership, there's no decisions being made, so there's no one to be critical of. As in, there's nothing is happening to be critical of, because nobody's actually making any decisions. So my hope is that it is sold, and it is sold quickly, and it is sold to someone who is a person and has a company and isn't like a vulture fund or a private equity fund, and someone who says, "All right, we're probably not going to make money for the first couple of years. Let's go in here for minimum 8 to 10 years. And here's what we're going to do. Here's our first like month planning. Here's our first 6 months. Here's our first year. Here's our first 5 years. Here's our first 8 years. We can adjust as we go, but that's the scaffold of our plan, or whatever, that blueprint of our plan." And I think that could fix it. I think if you have someone who's actually coming from CrossFit and buying CrossFit and doing it proper, not looking to turn a profit, not viewing it as something that's going to line the wallet, which like it potentially could, but it's not going to happen in that 2 to 5 year period that Rosa and Berkshire thought it would. I think what they need to do is just really, really really get it right with affiliates. Like that should be the whole focus, should be the affiliates. Just get people in the doors, the affiliates, and then everything else will gradually start to just kind of improve because of that. I think if the affiliate owners, coaches, and members all feel really good, a lot of the kind of arguments go away. Probably not on Reddit, but like in the comment sections, they'll start to dissipate a little bit because people will start to feel like, oh, it's actually not as shit as I thought it was. But it's just, we're at a really tricky point now where if you don't agree with someone, and this is societal, but like if you don't agree with someone, means that you fucking hate them and you hate everything about them and you hate everything that they believe in and you hate their family and you want their dad to be dead and everything else. And it can't just be like, oh, I actually just don't think that guy would be a good CEO for CrossFit. It has to be, no, it's you're fucking racist and that's what your problem is. And I bet you voted for Trump, or I bet you voted for Biden. Like, you know, it can't just be, I actually just don't think that's a really good idea. You know, I'm not educated enough to articulate why I think it's not a good idea, but I'm just not sure it's a good idea. Or I don't know, like Froning has to be involved. Like whatever happens, the way he spoke on Savant's show last week, on my show last week, at the announcement, the workout announcement, the way he spoke at Coaches Congress, like he just really, really, really gets it. I think Daniel Shafi really, really gets it. There are people who have done everything, like coached, trained, seminar staff. Froning has won everything there is to win.
Yeah.
I'm sure Daniel Shafi has won a table quiz or two. Like, you know, they've done everything there is to do. And people like them are the ones that need to be, if not directly involved, like somehow involved at the table, having conversations, or being asked for feedback, or being asked for advice, or being asked for criticism, you know, that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think so much of it is just about timing. Like, it just has to happen quickly, because if it happens, but if it takes 18 months for it to happen, it's just going to get so much worse before it can start getting better, and it might just get too bad. So I think if there's a big drawn out sale, it's not going to go well. If it's sold to the wrong group, it's not going to go well. So yeah, a good buyer who's invested for up to 10 years minimum, and who is willing to put smarter people than them in the room with them, and like put ego aside to get it right for affiliates. I think if that all happens, maybe even Reddit might turn around.
And when you say putting ego aside, I think that, do you think that means trying to bring things like High Rocks and the World Fitness Project closer, as opposed to further away as they are now?
Yeah, I mean, like High Rocks, I mean, honestly, what they should be doing on High Rocks is just pitching up with a level one, like, you know, a stall advertising the level one and giving like a 20% discount for people who want to do the level one or something. That's just like, that's what they should be doing. Or affiliate the training team. Someone should be there at a High Rocks event. Just because of like law of averages, there's so many people doing High Rocks that there has to be a decent proportion of those people would be like, oh, what's CrossFit? If they've never heard of it, or, oh, I've heard of CrossFit, I'm going to go and find out more. So I don't know about like bringing it in. I don't think they can be brought in. They're kind of doing pretty well on their own, so why would they? But you know, using that like sunny bit of the meadow to grow a few crops would make sense. Like to go there and, you know, get involved somehow, it would make sense. I think Dave's kind of seems to be laying a bit of foundation for maybe making that possible by not just being like, fuck High Rocks, you know, like, which I mean, historically he probably would have done. I think World Fitness Project, I don't really know what to make of that. I mean, I really wanted to succeed, but I just cannot see a reality where it does. Like, I cannot see, I can't visualize what it's going to look like. I can't imagine a sellout crowd in Indianapolis the same weekend as the IndyCar, whatever the fuck it's called, Indy 500 or whatever, and every Airbnb in the whole city is gone. I can't imagine it being a sellout. The other one, second one, I actually can't remember where it is, but same. Copenhagen, it'll be packed to the fucking rafters. You won't be able to breathe. I heard Morad on a podcast saying something about every continent apart from Antarctica. So then it's like, right, they're going to go to Africa, Asia, Australia, or well, Oceania, South America and Europe. And it's like, again, Europe packed, South America packed, Africa, no, Asia, no, maybe Korea actually, because they have a pretty decent CrossFit crowd. Oceania depends, like, just depends. I think I admire the fact that they want to start all their events from scratch, but geez, like that has to be a huge investment. Paying all the athletes, big investment, like admirable again, like, you know, they want to whatever, but I just like there's a reason it hasn't been done. It's just so much, like how many, no, I don't know. I don't want to get too into it, but like, you know, if Guy has a 300 grand, like, you know, contract from Tier, it's like how many pairs of shoes does he have to sell to get them an ROI on that? And then it's like, right, what contract are they getting from World Fitness Project, right? How many tickets does that person have to sell to get a return on investment for how long before they're in the green on a $60,000 contract? How many tickets is that? How many VIP tickets can you buy? And then it's like, right, and 3 times. And then what if that athlete comes back next year and says, hey, I sold it, I like my link was clicked this many times, I think I deserve more. And they start asking for more money. And then the World Fitness Project needs them, but doesn't want to pay them more. And then the other athletes here, the people are asking for more. And then they fucking unionize and they all want more. And then they've already spent, I mean, we haven't lifted a barbell and this probably spent about $5 million. And it's like, okay, so next year they're adding more events, so that's going to be more money. So it's like, how long are the investors going to say, you know what, it's cool, like we have so much money that we actually don't, we never want to make a profit, it's fine. If that's the case, it could be amazing. There to be a fucking Ferris wheel in the middle of the floor to watch the workout from. But like, everybody wants to make money. Nobody's just going to throw good money after bad. So at some point they're going to turn around and say, right, this needs to be self-sustaining. What does the World Fitness Project need to be self-sustaining? I'd say a shitload of money, and I don't know where they're going to make it from. That's my only concern with them. So I'd say CrossFit will probably should do something to, you know, make use of the fact that Hyrox is so popular. The cynic in me thinks that CrossFit don't need to do anything about World Fitness Project.
Yeah, I don't know if it was Rich that mentioned it on a podcast where they said basically they wouldn't know where, you know, if someone watches World Fitness Project and it's like, right, oh, I want to do that. Where do I do that? Go to that CrossFit gym. It doesn't. That's a bizarre thing.
Yeah. Well, it's like, it's not, you can't just go to CrossFit.com. There's, hang on now, let's see if I can find this. So they put up a post yesterday, right? Time to sign up in the competitor divisions. 400 likes, 10 comments. There isn't even 10 comments. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, sorry, there's replies. 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 10 comments. Like that, if you look at that level of education, if I'm the owners, if I'm the investors, and I look at that post and I see the amount of comments, I'm thinking, oh, we are fucked.
Yeah.
Like if that's the level of hype, it's like, uh-oh. Like who's going to, there should be 500 comments if we're going to sell tickets. So how's this going to work? And I don't know. I think it's tricky. I don't know how, I really hope it works, and I hope it's amazing, and I hope it's just incredible, but I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, to be fair, I put a reel on my personal account earlier and got like 8 comments, so it's not great.
But then again, with the polarizing thing and everything, like I've done debate shows about the World Fitness Project where they said that it's going to be professional and blah, blah, blah. And then they said they're not paying judges. And I was kind of like, well, should they not be paying judges if talking about being professional? It was just like a debatable topic, basically. And straight away, people in the live chat and in the comments afterwards being like, have you ever said anything positive about the World Fitness Project? Like, why are you so critical? It's like, no, like they're putting out, like they're drip feeding us at the time anyway. They were drip feeding us information, or we were hearing whispers about stuff. So we had nothing to go on. And again, it's like unless you're saying CrossFit bad, World Fitness Project good, you're a bootlicker for HQ, you're obsessed with Castro, you're useless, and you are, you know, you want the World Fitness Project to fail. And then similarly, if you say, God, I really love the World Fitness Project, it's amazing. Then it's, you hate CrossFit, you hate Castro, you hate, you know what I mean? So you kind of can't really win anywhere. Like, I think my stance on it is, I really want to do well, but it's probably not gonna. I really want CrossFit to do well, and I'm going to do everything in my power to help it do well, because I'm in a position to do it. Like, World Fitness Project haven't involved anyone in anything, so it's kind of hard to help when you're not involved and you don't have any information. So I am in a position to help CrossFit, and I'm going to do it because, as with many, many other people, CrossFit changed my life. My World Fitness Project hasn't really. I got a podcast episode out of it.
And I do think that when I see that, when you guys just ask the questions about it and there are no answers, that's when people lash out, isn't it? And it's like, rather than worry about the question I'm asking, worry about the fact there isn't an answer to it.
Yeah.
and then
nobody knows.
We might get some common ground.
Yeah.
Cool. Right, mate. Well, I think I've about covered everything I wanted to. So the last thing I need to ask you to do, if that's okay, is to leave your question for the next guest. It seemed a while ago when we talked about your fat 14-year-old self, but that was the question that you was left with. So on the spot, what you got?
We don't know who the next guest is, do we?
No, it might be a marketing guy that don't probably do that much fitness. And if he can't make it, it probably will be a fitness guy, but any question I'll do. More awkward,
all right.
better.
If it's a marketing guy, ask how much of, as a percentage, how much of marketing is just bullshit. Like, how much of marketing is just like, you know, filler words and like, we're going to do this, this, and this, and then you know that you're just bullshitting. Like, that just you're just scrambling, like being like, hopefully sometimes when I start talking, I don't even know what I'm going to say. If it's not a marketing person, I guess I don't know what would. It's so hard when you don't know who the person is. What if you weren't doing what you're doing now? What do you think you would be doing? Like, what was your plan B, or what was your in a parallel universe? What are you doing now?
I like that fits. And I hope that marketing guy doesn't say all of it, because I pay his company to help me do my marketing. So.
Imagine he's like, oh, all of it. Like, it's all.
Yeah,
wait, not for you though. For you, it's real serious stuff. Look, I've got stats.
Right, mate. Well, thank you. Not only for coming on and being my first live guest, but you have helped me out a lot with some advice. You sent us these mics that eventually arrived. And I just wanted to just say I appreciate all your support, mate. It's been no awesome problem. To be able to call on you. So we normally finish with a fist bump, but I'm going to struggle to do that. So there
you go.
Cheers, mate.
Do you know how to finish the live?
Just press end stream, I assume.
Yeah. And you just wait awkwardly for about 4 seconds.
And there you